What's going on, NBA fanatics? This is your friendly neighborhood Memphis Grizzly, home of Memphis X, and I talk hoops. Today, we are talking about a blockbuster Memphis Grizzlies trade in the middle of the night. But first, every hero needs their theme music.
KeyAno.
Grizz gang, go hard. Baddest in the game, we be on one. I talk hoops so secure. All up on the court, but we gon' score. Memphis bringing heat straight from Tennessee. Demarest back and let's go for he that MVP.
I promise you, every time you think you have Zach Kleiman figured out, every time you think you know the direction the team is going to go, you know nothing. Last night, the Memphis Grizzlies made a trade with the Boston Celtics and the Washington Wizards. They dealt Tyus Jones, the number 25 pick in the 2023 NBA draft, and the Golden State Warriors 2024 pick, top 4 protected next year, top 1 protected in 25, and unprotected in 26, for the Boston Celtics, Marcus Smart. So, just when I was goofing on the Celtics and the Clippers and the Wizards for blowing the Kristaps Porzingis trade in the middle of the night, and they were talking about they were trying to get the trade done before Porzingis' midnight deadline to opt into his contract, boom. The news comes that Memphis is part of the trade. And at first thought, I was like, oh, hell, please don't let Memphis have gone after Malcolm Brogdon, who was in the original trade with the Clippers. I did not want his injury-prone ass in Memphis. And I didn't think he was going to be a real significant upgrade to what they were doing, especially with Tyus Jones. But then they dropped the news that Marcus Smart was coming to Memphis. Now, I was really confused at how we were getting Marcus Smart for Tyus Jones, but I know things happen in the NBA when there's a time crunch and, teams have to make things happen at the last minute, which the KP opt-in deadline created this time crunch. So I was wondering what happened. And then when they dropped the news of the picks, I'm not going to lie, I was disappointed. Y'all know how much I love the NBA draft, and I always think there's talent in the draft at every spot, especially through 1 through 45. You can always find a pretty decent rotation player. So getting Marcus Smart really didn't thrill me like it has some other people. I understand everybody likes the fact that he is already a proven playoff performer. But the problem for me is that the Grizzlies didn't really address their needs. I don't really see Marcus Smart as a small forward or even a wing defender for the Grizzlies long term. But we shall see. I just like to err on the side of size, and the Grizzlies already had a size, length, and athleticism deficit on the roster. So this doesn't really help that problem. Also, it doesn't really help the problem that they faced this past season in the playoffs, where teams were leaving Dillon Brooks wide open. Teams are just going to leave Marcus Smart wide open because his shooting is not too much better than Dillon Brooks. And the one thing that we noticed, or if you watch the Celtics in the playoffs, every time there needed to be a big shot done, it seemed like that ball would just find Marcus Smart's hands. Now, to be fair, he made his fair share of shots, big shots in the playoffs, but more likely than not, his shooting was subpar in the playoffs. So, honestly, I'd rather have a better shooter, and I would have been content with Luke Kennard getting a lot of those minutes, and it looks like that might happen, in the start of the season when Ja's out. But like I said, if you can see by the thumbnail, I said it's a smart start because this is really the beginning of the off season, and we can't judge the whole entire off season by the first move the team makes. The Grizzlies still have the 45 and 56 pick in this draft. They now have the back-to-back Defensive Player of the Years on the same roster. And I expect Marcus Smart to have a bounce-back season this season. He's still only 29 years old. He still has a lot of good basketball left. And he's locked in for 3 years for the Grizzlies. Now, for some of the criticism as Smart as a player, we have his shot selection, his shot accuracy. But defensively, he's a savant. He's very smart, plays hard all the time, which, Grizzly fans will appreciate. There's no doubt I am going to love him in a Grizzly uniform when I see him play. The Grizzlies fan base is going to love him. He's going to keep that same amount of toughness that the Grizzlies were losing with Dylan Brooks' departure. So they still have that toughness, but with a little bit more basketball intelligence wrapped in it. Now, the thing that is worrisome is how he got cooked in the playoffs by Caleb Martin. But, things happen in the playoffs. So, I'll just wait and see how it looks with Jaren Jackson backing him up. We're going to have Jaren Jackson and Marcus Smart on the court down the stretch in big games in the playoffs, and that is usually going to be a sign of smart things. You add Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, and Steven Adams, and you had a lot of smart basketball players on the court together. So, it's one of those things is when you decrease the amount of stupidity in your closing lineup, that is always a good thing. So I'm not sure. Of course, this is not going to be the trade that elevates the Grizzlies into top contender status. I don't think that trade was out there. I don't think this trading for OG Anunoby would have done any more for the Grizzlies than trading for Marcus Smart, to be fair. I think they would have been better. I think they're better now with Marcus Smart. Of course, OG would have gave him a little size, but he also, he's a little bit better shooter than Marcus Smart. But, of course, he doesn't have the creation or anything like that, the other stuff that Marcus Smart is also lacking. So it would have been a better because of the size and his ability to play power forward next to Jaren. I was, looking forward to that if getting OG Anunoby. But the good thing about it is after this draft cycle, after the draft is over, after this season closes for business on June 30th, or whatever the date is, the Grizzlies will still have all of their picks available to trade. That gives them the ability to trade 4 first-rounders and 3 pick swaps for an upgrade, and they still have all the young players in tow. And I still expect them to somehow move into this draft into the 30s, maybe the low 20s still. So we're going to see if there's anything in this draft that they did like and that they're going to go after. But like I said, of course, the mock draft, man, I ain't had a chance to work on that. I was talking about that trade all last night. And with the Grizzlies not having a first-round pick, there's no use doing a first-round mock draft for the Memphis Grizzlies. So it is what it is. I'm still looking forward to the draft because I am still a big draftnik. I love the draft, and I look forward to Zach Kleiman getting a pick in this draft some kind of way and clearing some roster spots also on the way because we still have a glut of young small forwards in Roddy, Zaire, Laravia, Vince Williams, but he's going to be on a 2-way. And so, and then you throw in John Conchar along with that. That's 4 guys who are basically backup small forwards at this point. So, there's going to have to be a thinning of the herd for that at the very least. So hopefully we can get one of them dealt maybe and reset the clock with the, rookie scale contract. So the most likely candidate probably there is Zaire Williams, but you never know. The Grizzlies, have not been able, or Zach Kleiman hadn't dealt any of his draft picks yet, so had tipped to Cam on that one. But so we're going to see if he's finally able to trade one of his coveted draft picks, guys that he's drafted, in order to improve the roster. Guys, we'll be back. I might go live during the draft. It depends on what happens during the day. But, I would have been a little bit more excited if the Grizz had kept their first round pick. But we'll see what's going to happen. Peace.